Welcome back. The Bronx Economic Development Corporation has been playing a crucial role in helping local entrepreneurs and small businesses access the capital they need to grow and succeed. Whether it's providing loans, grants, or connecting business owners with financial resources, BXEDC is helping turn small ideas into thriving enterprises in our community. Joining us to share more about how they're empowering Bronx businesses with the resources to succeed is the director of the Empowerment Zone at BXEDC, Ruvi Lopez, along with Chief of Staff at BXEDC, Luis Garcia. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Now, before we get a little bit more into the specifics, can you briefly tell us a little bit more specifically about the role BXEDC plays in supporting local small businesses?
Yeah, I can start us off. First of all, again, thank you for having us. It's great to be a part of this conversation with y'all because we want to talk more about the support we do for businesses. So outside of access to capital, we also make sure that we are cultivating an environment for businesses in the Bronx, the type of environment that businesses need to thrive. So an example, we make sure to cultivate those relationships by hosting a series of workshops, which we call the Economic Empowerment Workshop. Those allow us to not only provide a networking space, but we bring in together CPAs, we bring in banking experts, we bring in folks that can help just provide best practices and really help educate the small businesses. So we create as many of these opportunities as possible to make sure that businesses are getting the support they need. And then oftentimes we're assessing what those supports are.
Now, you briefly mentioned education, which I want to say is so important just because I'm even hearing some of this stuff, I'm like, oh, what is that? Can you talk about the importance of education and educating people from the Bronx about small businesses? Because a lot of the times people have really amazing ideas, but they don't know where to start.
Absolutely. I could jump in. I think education is the biggest hurdle we currently have in the Bronx now. It's really about just getting that small business to the starting line, whether it's with a business plan or just coming up with a concrete idea of what they want to do with their business. And the way we are helping them is by the financial workshops, as we have said, and working with CPAs, because CPAs are what we have to really talk to the small business owner, as small business owners really rely on those people to get somewhere. So I think education is for sure the biggest hurdle we currently have, and we're working to bridge that gap.
Now, we know small businesses often face difficulty when trying to get loans from traditional banks. How does the organization bridge the gap and help entrepreneurs get the financing they need?
Yeah, so bring up the workshops again, because that's one of the main reasons of why we started it. So when we do the workshops, the economic empowerment workshops, we host them at a local community bank. The reason for this is so that when we're there, we're able to point directly to the business owners and to the CPAs and to the banking experts that are on site and say, this is the first step, is you have to cultivate a relationship with folks. You have to build a friendship, you have to know who these bankers are, and so that when you're talking about securing your loan or you're talking about the vision for your business, they're able to provide you the steps, the guidance, and to help you get to that point of where you want to start your business, or if you're already in the middle of starting your business, you want to see how to grow your business.
And with that, how do you help small business owners build strong financial plans and just help kind of secure that idea? Because as I mentioned, a lot of people have great ideas and sometimes they're very passionate about it, so they may kind of be on one path. How do you kind of help people kind of open their mind into understanding like, hey, you may need to change certain things or you may need to do certain things if you really want to succeed?
Yeah, I think something that Luis mentioned earlier was the business plan. And a lot of times we start there. The business plan is essentially your roadmap. So with that, you're able to say and know what direction you're going in your business. You're able to understand the benchmarks that are needed to attain whatever the goal is for your business. It also just helps you with, as you're crafting your vision, you're able to say, okay, well, this is the direction we're going. We need to have a cost breakdown. What's going to be the cost of our service, or what's going to be the cost of our goods? So oftentimes the business plan really is the sort of the foundation of the business. And then from that you can grow, and there will be custom to change, but oftentimes that's the first step that you want to take.
Now, the organization has approved nearly $1.5 million in loans to Bronx businesses in 2024, which I think is definitely worth noting. That's an amazing accomplishment. What makes these loans unique and why are they so important to small businesses?
So I would say the one thing that makes these loans so unique is that these businesses wouldn't be able to get the funding elsewhere. So we were able to bridge that gap for them in terms of getting them those loans. There are also small businesses that we visit every day, whether it's the restaurant, the local bodega, or the local cupcake maker. So we were there to bridge that gap for them, help them expand and grow. And another thing that I think is really important is that we are able to kind of bring a lower interest rate to these small businesses. They're no longer paying that 25% every month. We're able to bring a much lower interest rate to expand their business and help them continue to succeed and gain more revenue.
And I also want to mention and highlight, we're talking about the Bronx, which is pretty amazing considering the Bronx just generally has so many different challenges. Even this, with these challenges, 20% more businesses have been created in the South Bronx since 2011, which I think is pretty cool and pretty amazing. Can you tell us a little bit more about why we're seeing this type of growth in the Bronx?
Yeah, I can tap into that. So there's a lot of economic incentives in the Bronx. So for instance, the Empowerment Zone, that's one of those sort of tax incentives that help businesses as they're looking at spaces for them to build their business. Empowerment Zone is one of those federally designated areas that provides tax incentives in ways that folks can save, as well as things like REAP, which is the relocation employment assistance program. So that helps businesses if they're looking to look for space in the Bronx and relocating their business from another borough. That's one of those economic incentives. And then lastly, just the general affordability. I believe the Bronx is much more affordable per square footage. So you just have a general affordability that I think that after the pandemic, a lot of businesses realized there's something to be invested in the Bronx. It's unfortunate it took a pandemic, right? It took a global pandemic to shut us down and show us that, hey, the Bronx, despite all of those unfortunate circumstances, continue to feed New York City, continue to not only grow in terms of jobs, wages, and retention. So there's a magic in the Bronx that I think we understood, and that's why we work so diligently to provide these type of support for businesses. But I think other folks are realizing from a more economic side, if you're willing to and you want to invest in the Bronx and grow your business, it's a good place to start.
Now, I will say, as somebody who's kind of grown up in the Bronx, I've seen so many local businesses, and so I'm very familiar with the power of, the mom and pop shop, or just somebody who had an idea, or who came to this country and had an idea to do something great. With that, I want to also acknowledge that historically there have been so many challenges with people kind of making a name for themselves through business in the Bronx. Can you tell me a little bit more about what some of those challenges were?
Absolutely, I could tap into that. So I think the main challenge, as we touched on before, was education. Many of these businesses aren't really equipped to go to the starting line to get a loan. Many of these businesses haven't filed taxes in a couple of years. So that's where we really want to kind of tap in with the workshops and make sure that they know to get to the starting line for a loan, you first need to have everything in order. So that's what we're really working on now, which is the technical assistance piece of it. Just making sure these businesses know we can't do anything without you having your papers in order. So I think the main focus for us has been education and technical assistance for the small businesses.
And if I can dovetail on that, just because you bring up a good point, you have those issues for a business, right? But then on top of that, many of these businesses are operated and solely operated by an individual. So we're factoring in having to produce the service or whatever the business is, but then you're also having to train staff, you're having to secure funding, you have to pay rent, you have to do all number of things that go along with the business. So it's education as well as the general plight of just what are the struggles and the challenges of running a business. And then you factor that in the Bronx, you factor all these different things. It's a challenge. So that's why we, as we're out there assessing how to support these businesses, a lot of it is just sort of listening and figuring out what are their challenges, because it's very different than other boroughs. So we're always trying to figure out with the unique challenges needs a unique solution.
And kind of want to expand on, you brought up education, financial literacy. Now, this is a term that I've been hearing a lot more recently. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it means to be financially literate and, what that can do for so many people in the Bronx, whether or not they want to get into the field of business or not?
I can tap into that. And I know Luis has a couple things to say about that. So first of all, we try not to call it financial literacy. Because at the end of the day, businesses are coming with different levels of education around their business. So that's why we intentionally call the workshops economic empowerment, because we wanted to sort of empower businesses with the understanding of how to manage their finances. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit of an assumption to think that most of these businesses just lack the financial literacy. It's not the case. It's like, to go back to the point we just made, these businesses are dealing with a lot more than just operating their business. It's also managing and growing the business. So it's education, and that's why we want to focus on financial literacy or economic empowerment. But a lot of it really is just giving them the directions in the right place of where they need to go next. And sometimes it's just having a good partnership with a bank or knowing a CPA who can tell you in advance, you got to pay your taxes today or your taxes this year, because with paying your taxes, you're able to then secure a loan down the line.
Thank you so much for sharing. Did you want to expand on that?
I think just dovetailing off of what Ruby said, just the main thing is meeting the business owner where they are. They are all at different stages of their business and where they need to be. So we just make sure we meet them at the place where they are, and just making sure they know, like, we're here to help no matter what.
And I love the term economic empowerment. I think it's a really great term. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, looking ahead, are there any new programs or initiatives that the organization is planning to roll out to further support the Bronx's small business community?
Yeah, I could tap in. So as we've said, workshops have been kind of our word today. So we're going to continue the monthly workshops with our many partners in the borough. We're also excited to announce that BX Factor, which is our version of the Shark Tank, will be returning May 2025 during Bronx Week. And we're also just going to keep an eye out to keep tailoring our loan products to meet the needs of all the businesses in the borough, whether they're big or small, whether it's one person or 100. We're just going to keep updating our loan products to make sure we bridge that need.
And did you want to expand on that?
No, I think you touched it right on where it needs to be said.
Now, how can someone who's interested in starting or growing a business in the Bronx get in touch with the organization to learn more or apply for support?
Yeah, you can check out our website, BXEDC.org. Check out our Instagram as well. We have a pretty active Instagram. Right now we're talking about Savor the Bronx, which is our version of Restaurant Week. So you can go either our website to check out our loans and any of our upcoming events, or check out our Instagram handle, where we're all constantly updating on not just events that we're producing, but also just what's happening in the community as well.
Now, I want to say, I heard you briefly mention like your version of Shark Tank, which I thought was so exciting. And I'm like, don't be surprised if you see me, because I always have like these ideas, and I'm like, I could run a business. But I definitely want to mention that I think it's such an amazing just initiative to kind of help people in the Bronx. As I mentioned, growing up here, I've seen a lot of people run businesses or come from different countries and, make a name for themselves here in the Bronx. And I think it's so amazing that we're seeing organizations continuously, give support to so many people who, as you mentioned, are dealing with so many other things outside of being a business owner. They're human after all, and they're dealing with a lot of stuff. So I think this is an amazing initiative to help people in the Bronx. And with that, I want to appreciate you both so much for joining us and talking a little bit more about the work that you're doing to support these small business owners.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
To find out more about their services for small businesses, please go to their website, BXEDC.org. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you miss any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.